think there's not any question that Hillary would be a better president and that people would do better under Hillary. And the core reason for that is that there's a big difference between telling us all the things that are wrong with America that are making so many people mad and having a solution for those things. And one of the things I admire about Hillary enormously, which you'd think would be funny from the former chair of the DNC, is that actually she knows how to work with Republicans. Now, look, I don't like right-wing Republicans very much, but we have to get something done in this country, and that is why people are so upset. When Hillary was a senator from New York, she sat down and got stuff done that benefited her constituency and the people she cares about. The people she cares about, the most of all, are children. And when she got out of Yale Law School, when she got out of Yale Law School, she went to work for Marian Wright Edelman, who was one of the heroes of the movement to help women and children, and young children. And, you know, I respect Bernie, but what has he actually done to do to get any of this stuff done? I mean, he talks and says all the right things, and he believes the right things. I want somebody who's going to do something. And they're not going to be perfect, and there are no politicians that are perfect. You know, I get a kick out of this business about Hillary taking money from people who had something to do with the fossil fuel industries. So did Bernie, and he took more than Donald Trump did. Enough already, okay? We're all politicians, we get it, nobody's perfect. I want somebody who's going to deliver the goods for this country. I don't want somebody who's going to complain about things. I want to get somebody who knows how to get stuff done. And the only person who's running for president on either side of the aisle, I would argue, is Hillary Clinton. So this is a no-brainer for me.
Howard Dean, you were just telling these students that you were talking about the 50-state strategy which you pioneered as DNC chairman, and which I believe Obama kind of used going to states that used to be considered unwinnable like North Carolina.
Yep.
This election, the conventional wisdom on both sides has been that since that time we've become a more polarized nation, and that campaigns in fact are going to spend a lot more time bringing out the base and not contesting some of those, if not purple, just blue states for red candidates and vice versa. Is that not true?
It's not entirely true. Barack did a great job in Virginia and North Carolina, states that we hadn't won for a very long time, particularly Virginia. And Indiana was another one. It was a big surprise. So the 50-state strategy worked well during the campaign, but what usually happens is when we have the presidency, the campaign, the DNC becomes the vehicle for re-election, and the 50-state strategy gets neglected. And that's not a knock on Obama. That's happened with every president. The Republicans have the same problem when they have the White House.
And in fact, that was supposed to be the mission of the successor of Dean for America, which was Democrats for America.
Well, with Dean for America, except that was very interested in progressive candidates, which is great, except that it's not a substitute for the DNC doing this all over the country. They don't have anything close to the resources that the DNC does. So what we really need, and I think Hillary has said she would do this, which I'm really pleased about. I think she gets that, especially looking at what's happened to Obama, is if you want to have a successful presidency, you have to have a successful Democratic Party. It's one of the reasons she's reinvesting in the Democratic Party right now. So she has said, and I believe her, that she really is going to maintain the 50-state strategy after she wins.
I mean, you got crap from Rahm Emanuel for taking plane rides to Alaska and places he thought you should have been spending off your elections building organizations.
I did get crap from Rahm Emanuel. He's got his ratings, and I've got different ones right now. And second of all, they wouldn't have taken him back to the House without the 50-state strategy, because what we did was let local people figure out what candidates were best for them, instead of telling them, pushing them out of the race if they weren't liked in Washington. And that was the 17-seat difference that gave us the House in 2006.
So now, if you were Hillary Clinton, what would you be learning from the fact that in primary after primary, including last night in Wisconsin, 80% of the voters who are 18 to 29 are going to Bernie Sanders?
Well, I think that in some ways that's what Bernie brings to the campaign that's positive, is a lot of energy that young kids get really excited about. The polling shows that almost all of those young kids are going to be with us after the convention, after we win. And I think we are.
So you're not worried?
I'm not worried.
I don't mean about getting the nomination, about where that youth vote. Will they be energized?
Yes. I tell you why I'm not worried. Now, there are going to be people who will sit in their hands and stay home. There's older people who have sort of always been on the margins of the political process because they've never felt represented by either of the two parties. And that's Bernie's shtick. But what the young kids in this country are very different. They're not as polarized as we are. They're not as ideologically intense as our generation. They're not cultural warriors. We've already seen polling that 2/3 of them are going to end up voting for Hillary Clinton, and that's now when the race is at its most bitter.
Before you're talking about the Supreme Court in October.
Well, there's the Supreme Court in October, but the bitterness is right now.
No, I mean like I'm talking about changing people's mind when they see what's at stake in a vote.
Oh yeah. Well, there's always that.
But what's Hillary Clinton going to learn from the fact that Bernie Sanders, who's an avowed socialist with no big money behind him, has done so well? What can she learn from that to be a stronger candidate if she gets the nomination?
There's two different skills. One is the skill to energize people, get them to the polls and inspire them. Another skill is actually managing the country. And that is why I like Hillary.
Well, that's why you're for her. I mean, strategically, how can she be a stronger general election candidate? What can she learn from this?
Hillary Clinton can't be somebody she's not. She's not a natural politician. Bernie is a natural politician, and I give him credit for that. But the truth is, I want somebody who can manage the country.
You're making the argument for why to vote for Hillary Clinton.
Yes.
What I'm asking is, given that he's done better than expected, it's taking Bernie Sanders out of the equation, how can Hillary Clinton learn from this surprisingly close primary race?
Okay,
to make her a stronger candidate?
Well, I think what she's learned is that there are a lot of people who are upset in this country, both on the Republican side and on our side, who feel like they felt behind. And I think through the campaign, Hillary has begun to embrace, in ways that she hasn't said before, this cause that both Bernie and Donald Trump have, which is that we've got to start standing up for middle-class people, especially working-class people. So if I were going to say there was a lesson out of this campaign, is that Bernie and Trump's message, we're not talking about all the bigotry and all that, we're talking about the core group. There's about a 20% crossover between Bernie voters and Trump voters, and it's around this issue of opportunity, and the opportunity has been taken away by large corporations. The system is skewed towards large corporations. I think that's the learning point that Hillary Clinton
And how could she learn to become the voice of people who are concerned about that?
She already is beginning to do that. She's already addressing some of those things, and I think she has a much better job actually of doing something about it. We're not going to break up the big banks. Bernie has explained to his detriment to the Daily News that he basically doesn't have any idea how to break up the big banks. Hillary Clinton serves 8 years in the Senate. She knows very well what has to happen. I do think that Elizabeth Warren is going to have more influence in the Democratic Party as a result of Bernie's candidacy, and I think that's a good thing.
Think she'll be the vice president?
I have no idea. I mean, I think that's nobody should even be thinking about that. I don't think
Vermont candidates seem to be doing well at the electorate. What do you think?
We do. I mean, it could be anything.